So as Jonathan said, after I went to the Darshan in 1969, I had the chance to return to India in the end of 1970 with Bob Brown, actually, from here, and stay for several months and got to know the Mandali. And I brought back a copy of all the Meher Baba journals. The journals were issued for 4 years. And I was taken by those mystical articles by Norina. And then, of course, my life started, my career started, my family started. And 48 years later, I thought to myself, well, I should pick these up and see about them now again. When I had tried to share them in the early 70s, the Baba people, the Baba lovers, sort of looked at me blankly. So I thought, well, no, it's not time yet. And so then I tentatively tried sharing them again. That was about 6 years ago. So, and then there was more interest. I felt more interest. And then when the pandemic had occurred, we began readings online through Zoom that continued still. But that's not what I want to talk about. That's just a little background about a little discussion that I've heard, although I'm not in the center of Baba's world or his home here in Myrtle Beach. But the little discussion I've heard of what is the awakening. Baba's life was clearly aimed, he said, at preparing and releasing the word, bringing about an awakening in the new age. So, and of course on his tomb he had put, I have come not to teach, but to awaken. His messages on this began very early here in 1932 in New York and in Los Angeles. He said, when I speak, my original message will be delivered to the world and it will have to be accepted. When I speak, I shall manifest the divine will and worldwide transformation of consciousness will take place. In 1938, in the first issue of the Meher Baba Journal, actually, was the discourse, the avatar. Avataric periods in which he said, avataric periods are like the springtide of creation. They bring a new release of power, a new awakening of consciousness, a new experience of life, not merely for a few, but for all. Qualities of energy and awareness which had been used and enjoyed by only a few advanced souls are made available for all humanity. Life as a whole is stepped up to a higher level of consciousness, is geared to a new rate of energy. The transition from sensation to reason was one such step. The transition from reason to intuition will be another. And in a notebook of Baba's quotes that Adi shared with me, Baba said that where reason had represented the perfection of sensation as an evolutionary step, so too the transition from intuition will be the perfection of reason. In 1941, in the period we're talking now about, it is now high time to seek a new experience of reality, to know that life is real and eternal. To know that life is real and eternal is to inherit unfading bliss. It is time that men had this realization by being unified with their own selves. Through unification with the higher self, man perceives the infinite self in all self. It becomes free by outgrowing and discarding the limitations of ego life. The individual soul has to realize with full consciousness its identity with the universal soul. In 1952, he said, "When I speak, it will be only one divine word. This word will have to be hearkened by the heart and not merely by the mind. It will go home to you and bring you the awakening." In 1954, he gave out, "When I speak the word, I shall lay the foundation for that which is to take place during the next 700 years. My word of words will touch the hearts of all mankind, and spontaneously this divine touch will instill in man the feeling of the oneness of all fellow beings. Gradually, in the course of the next 700 years, this feeling will supersede the tendency of separateness and rule over the hearts of all, driving away hatred, jealousy, and greed that breed suffering, and happiness will reign." In 1958, in his universal message, he proclaimed, "I have come not to teach, but to awaken. Understand, therefore, that I lay down no precepts. To get nearer and nearer to God, you have not to renounce anything but your own self. It is possible for you to renounce your limited self by my grace. I have come to release that grace. It is possible for you to renounce your limited self by my grace. I have come to release that grace. When I release the tide of truth which I have come to give, the impact of my love will be universal, and all life in creation will know, feel, and receive of it. It will help every individual to break himself free from his own bondage in his own way. The breaking of my silence will help you to help yourself in knowing your real self." In 1962, at the East West Gathering, he gave, "I shall break my silence and with my word of words arouse my children to realize in their lives the indivisible existence which is God. I shall break my silence and with my word of words arouse my children to realize in their lives the indivisible existence which is God." In 1965, at Guru Prasad, he said, "When the word of my love breaks out of its silence and speaks in your heart, telling you who I really am, you will know that is the real word you have always been longing to hear. And the word of my love breaks out of its silence and speaks in your heart, telling you who I really am. You will know that is the real word you've always been longing to hear." And in 1968, Mani in her feminine letter reported, "On Tuesday, the 30th of July, 1968, Baba's work, was concluded. On that evening, beloved Baba declared, 'My work is done. It is completed 100% to my satisfaction. The result of this work will also be 100% and will manifest from the end of September. So in various places, she said that breaking of my silence will help yourself, will help you to help yourself in knowing your real self, to realize the indivisible existence, which is God, to realize with full consciousness its identity with the universal soul. And through unification with the higher self, man perceives the infinite self in all selves. Now, to me, these were always tantalizing but mysterious statements. Focus of his discourses, of his God Speaks, was always the spiritual path, finding the spiritual path, getting on the spiritual path, advancing through it to the ultimate experience of God realization. Yet clearly he wasn't speaking here of God realizing all in the world. It was in my mind a kind of a mystery, his mystery that he let out for us. So is the self-realization he's speaking about in all these messages that he was preparing and what he would release. Is it a God realization or what is it? And in all those messages he gave out on the alphabet board and through his gestures later, there's only hints. They're plain spoken. They're no doubt correct. So now Jonathan said something about Norina, and I don't know whether I should go through details here, but for those who might not know or who see this, if it's recorded successfully, Norina was born in Italy in 1880. She married a German writer, and in Berlin, got into the theater. And her husband wrote a play that was put on by a famous producer, and she became the star as the statue of Madonna that after 3 hours of its fantastic performance comes to life and performs the miracle, as the play was called. It was a big hit in London, Paris, Berlin, etc. But in 1917, she divorced her first husband and married a Georgian prince, George Matchabelli, who at that time was the ambassador to Italy. And of course, the Russian Revolution did away with the Georgian monarchy. So they came to New York. She had a contract, she believed, to play the Madonna again in the Miracle in the States. And she did, in fact, tour with the Madonna, as the Madonna in the Miracle play in 1924. Then they began a perfume company, Princess Matchabelli Perfume Company, which is still a brand that's viable today. But in 1931, she met Mayor Baba at age 51 in Armand Hudson, New York, and was immediately stricken with love, with his love. Then amongst the next 5 years were very eventful for her. She had several opportunities to be with Baba in Europe and in the US. She divorced the prince, who wasn't taken with Baba, although Baba told him that he would know who he was before he died. which was only 2 years later when he died of pneumonia. And that freed Norina to move to Nasik, to the Nasik ashram with other Western Baba lovers, including Elizabeth Kitty, etc. And from there, Baba took some of them to Mehrabad to live with Marimani, the Eastern women disciples. And it was there that they began on his orders, the Mehrabad journals, monthly journals. And of course, they had to have articles to put out a journal. You have to have articles. So who was going to write the articles? Well, they were going to write the articles in the beginning, and gradually other Baba lovers contributed during the 4 years of the monthly journal. In the mid-1941, Norina was sent back with Elizabeth and with Nadine Tolstoy to New York with instructions to Elizabeth to find his home in the West, a place for a spiritual center that he'd come to, and to Norina to speak about him publicly and privately to Baba lovers. Norina, at that point, Norina did help Elizabeth greatly in developing the center. She did speak Baba lovers and didn't relay messages he received inwardly to Baba lovers. It did create controversy among them, some of them. And meanwhile, Norina's health was continuously declining. She had a congestive heart failure over a long period of time, and she developed severe depression. And as Baba predicted, actually in the messages he published, he said her reward for transmitting these messages in the journals, the articles, would be suffering. Her reward would be suffering, physical, mental, and spiritual. And so that proved to be the case. And she died quietly living in Elizabeth's home in Myrtle Beach in 1957. Now, as Jonathan mentioned, I found an article on the Trust website from in the Trust archives. That was a letter from Norina to Baba 6 weeks after she met him. Baba had returned to India. And she wrote a love letter, and you see it here in her handwriting, 18 pages, gushing with love, asking to help in his cause. But she begins with saying, quoting what she calls the voice of the inner. The voice of the inner. Love me in all I do give you to do. Then she goes on praising Baba, responding to his love, clearly a honeymoon phase letter, asking to be brought up into his work, and also asking, what is this voice? Is it your voice? Can you confirm that this is your voice that she's apparently been hearing? And then she quotes the voice as telling her to keep it secret. Keep it secret so as it is quiet, and keep super silence of me in all voice. In other words, me in the voice. Do no clairvoyance. I suppose it should be clairaudience. To outward other. In other words, don't reveal is what you're hearing from me. As it is too soon to you to do it. So this was at the end of 1931. Again, just 6 weeks after she met Baba. And it was only 7 years later that she began putting into her articles she was writing for the journal statements quoting Baba, but with a mystical tone that we don't recognize from the historical record. Even at the end of this letter, she promises that she will not reveal the voice, but she pleads with him to confirm that this is your voice. So she says, I will no more use it until you give me instructions. So, as I said, the journals began publication in the end of 1938, and they continued through the end of 1942. There were 4 complete issues, 4 times 12 publications, 48. She came to India about just at the end of 36, and she left with Elizabeth and Nadine in the middle of 41. She was there in India almost 5 years. And the articles that she contributed are almost 250 pages of the journal. There were travels with Baba, or accounts of incidents with Baba and the Blue Bus tours. There were some formal talks she gave on the podium with Dr. Deshmukh at universities, at the Indian Science Center, and then after she returned, the last volume of the journals included some talks she gave in New York. But in the period she was in India, there were 19 mystical articles quoting Meher Baba's voice in first person, I, enclosed in quotes. And these are what I feel are the real treasures for us. They include, but they do not maintain throughout, what Baba in them calls the mystical language. Or sometimes once he mentions this is semi-mystical language, and other times he's saying I'm using the ordinary language. But they're all on the same theme. What is the awakening? So there a great volume of writing of speaking from Baba on what is the intuition, what is the awakening to come. And the only place that I know that he spoke of this. Now, as Jonathan referred to, when she returned, she began giving public talks at his request, as well as private talks to the Baba lovers, the few Baba lovers at that time. But in the first one that was actually published in the Meher Baba journals, she says, I am here speaking a normal language because I cannot talk a mystical language in this Western hemisphere, where the rationalistic approach has fixed a definite outlook against this intuitional awakening in this new cycle of evolution. And in letters, she was even more strong that there were demonic forces, she said, that were at work. Now, so not only the visible reaction among people who attended, but she said there was also unseen influences. She had the Baba lovers sit in the front row to shield her. And this was Baba's words through her, telling her that this must happen. So this was her work when she came back from India changed completely. The viewpoint changed completely. She was no longer quoting Baba as I. There was no more of the mystical language. There was the appreciation of Baba in the personal sense as a man in India who is preparing for the new age and who is sharing his love as the avatar or as the perfect master. So, what about these articles in the journals? I had the chance to ask Kitty when I came back. Kitty Davy at the center. And so she told me this, and quite definitely. She said, yes, the journal editors, well, Elizabeth was the editor, but there was a group of them who were working on the journal. She said the journal editors told Baba that some of the articles that Norina was submitting were difficult to understand. And they thought, well, Norina is Italian, so perhaps her command of English is not really good. So can't we rearrange the words and, make it into an ordinary language so that, people can understand it? And Baba ordered them. He said, no, do not change one word. Those were Kitty's words. Do not change one word. In other words, publish them as she submits them. You are all children, he told them, meaning you don't understand what this is all about. You won't be able to understand this. He said, these articles will be appreciated in future. And that was 85 years ago now. And now I'd like to share a little of these articles. This first excerpt, I will, from one of the articles written and submitted in India to the Meher Baba journals, called My Life in Baba, in which Baba says through Norina about the awakening in a language that I would say is perhaps the semi-mystical language. This is, the awakening is and shall be when I shall live in mind in man, new in verb. Verb is life in love, unconditional in all. That I and all shall awaken. It is to be soon. I here prepare the way in all who in me win the I infinite. It is to be seen, heard, and felt. It is to be truth form in all, in ordering conscience. So that is just a sample of this, of a great mass of text Baba gave us. So what is Baba speaking about? What does Baba say about the awakening, this process of self-realization that his work in this Advent was to bring about? In one place, he calls it the evolution of I, of our conscious awareness of self, our consciousness of self. And in the articles, there's a orthographic distinction between the word self in small letters, meaning the individual, personal, limited, intellectually defined self, me, everything about me that makes me different than you and makes me, whatever my sanskars will penetrate my consciousness and make me think I am. And that's contrasted with self in all capitals, which is the experience, Baba's own experience, the one all I. Now, these interpretations, of course, are my own thinking. They're not more than that. The awakening, schematically, the awakening that Baba, as he portrays it in these articles, is an intuitive awareness of self with a capital S. Whereas our normal self is the self-individual. This inner self, this one in I, is the self-impersonal. As pure portion of our experience. The awakened self has dual experience, continued experience of ourselves as limited, separate individuals, and at the same time, an intuitive awakened awareness of ourself as one, as the one in I, God's own good, true good. Through what he refers to time and again as order in conscience. Now, order in conscience is, to me, the most difficult to understand concept in these articles. I won't try to interpret it here, but I think it's perhaps up to each of us to think, who is interested to come to some understanding of that within ourselves. And this is through the new intuition. Awakening of the experience of the dual I, the process of self-realization. Now that's a schematic. I just thought that we should start with the schematic. And, but then look again at what Baba spelled out on his alphabet board. The awakening, the breaking of the silence, bringing the awakening, will help every individual to break himself free from his own bondage in his own way. The breaking of my silence will help you to help yourself in knowing your real self. So how is that? Well, again, this is my thought. An awareness of oneself as the one in I, as pure portion, the self-impersonal, can act as a kind of a compass. Seeing, knowing and feeling the good can true our course toward the ultimate experience of God realization. Through the divine theme that Baba gave in God Speaks in the discourses, and that we know from all that. That is my interpretation. Now, I've said a lot about all this. So rather than, my thoughts, I'd like to read now from one of the articles Norina contributed while she was in India. It's an article it was in the 15th, 16th monthly journal issues. And in it, Baba said he's not using in this article the mystical language. So about the mystical language, perhaps I could say something another time. But the mystical theme is here. So this article is fairly long. It begins with a preamble by Norina, her own thoughts, and then a discourse by Baba. So I thought I would read from the end of the preamble of Norina, because to illustrate the eloquence and the beauty of her own writing and her own thinking. So Norina ends by saying, God is in search of us. He comes disguised as the selfless servant of mankind. His greatest miracle is to lead us blindfolded to the meeting point in us with him. When we abstract all religious intellectual conceptions from the real experience of the divine existence, we touch the pure basis of life spiritual, and that is the feeling for God. The temple of the living God is in us. The most sublime of all religions is the heart. It is that love which draws its essence from the source of all existence. It is sharing, giving, the unchangeable benefit. Then Norina directly introduces the message Baba gives her by saying, Meher Baba mystically replied to me by the following answer to my thoughts. And I've taken out certain digressions in this. You'll see 3 dots. Baba through Norina says, and Norina writes, when I come to the world in the form of a human being and make the supreme effort to be a divine human being, I have to bring to conscious realization within that which is real, pure, good, unselfish. No other mental method will suffice in this new age of transmutation from the individual I to the infinite I. This unself-reactive order in the intellect that is done by me in a way that no one can see is to be taken for granted by you, Norina, and those of my disciples who know that I am the God-realized one who has to bring to this plane of the mind the new spiritual resurrection. This so-called unself-reactive way to realize within the realm of the spirit the deep creation order that is to know, to see, and to feel is my so-called miracle in this epoch of the new cycle. When you say that the human being has to consciously realize within himself, as the ordinary human being, the divine intuition, you say the right thing. The right thing is that no one except those whom I choose to become more realized within come to know me as I really am. Whatever this is, I here can only say, it is to see me as I am. When I say that this is all, you have to accept it and no more argue. You have to feel it, and in this understand that it is all supremely important that you do in every way what I in you or out of you do realize. And this is to obey and to make use of every minute of this life to fill yourself with the divine radiance that is coming through me. This radiance is not yet an order in this human, ordinary, conscious mind. It is soon going to be a deep order. And it is soon going to be a deep upheaval. And it is soon going to be a profound, aware realization of truth in those who see. To see means to understand that which is not to be ordinary or merely individual and of the intellect.
Mhm.
So have it be cleared in the minds and in the intellects of those who come here to see me. They were living in Bangalore at that time. That I am a human being that has come to make the world as much realize of its own divine existence as the human self is in readiness to realize. No more could be told to the ordinary human inquiring intellect than this. This being, of which everyone makes use as a term to express a somewhat a superior realm of consciousness, is a rare state in which men have no real self-satisfaction and experience of their own existence. There it is where the mind does not want to give in. There it is where men do not want to really and truly capitulate and consciously give up that which is unconscious. That which is unconscious is the head. In many ways, the human real reaction within the realm of being is as far unconscious as it is in the reaction body, which is the so-called individual I. No one really has really the desire to realize above that. No one has really the desire to realize above that which is unrealizable through the process of dual thinking. Come to me, all who are heavy laden, and I will free you from the burden of your suffering. Come to me, all who are unself-conscious in this divine experience, in this divine existence, and I will give you the way. Come to me, all who are unrealized within and unself-reactive without in the intellect. And I will see you out of that show of unconscious divine expansion, out and on to the pure form of being. Whatever I here say, it is for you to use and not for the world to understand. As in these words is my life, that which is in you, the being existence. You know very well that I am the very being that has come to existence for the good of mankind. To make it clear, I have to perform the life of every human individual. That is to say, I have to come down to the level of every human state of consciousness. I make it clear in them by being them as they owe to be and as they show to be. For that same purpose, Jesus, Muhammad, Zoroaster, Buddha, Krishna came into human existence. They did not come to give life and matter and body in human advantageous conditions. They came to strengthen in mind and in body that which they must have in order to come to a new conscious state, which is the pure, unselfish, winning will to overcome all limitations, all bindings, all individual customs of thought and experience. This is all clear. But who is right at that point to win and to win and to win? I repeat it 3 times, as in these 3 times I order within the subconscious and in the realm of life that is more spiritual as human creation, and in that other side of the human creation, which is real and divine. In these 3 forms or bodies, I make the divine upset, and I create that which I here come to say, to be, the new evolutionary order to awake in the realm of life, which is yet unself-conscious, in the head and in the heart of men of this earth. No more or no less, my life here has to bring into existence a very deep human mental state, out of which man has to see, to know, to feel that it is I who have come to give this divine upset. The divine upset has to be the supreme expansion in consciousness possible to be obtained in man. The supreme expansion of the conscious existence in man has to be the new form of free religion. It is no more to be called by any name, but it is to be felt. It has no more to be conscious in the intellect, in form of idea or thought. It is the being that in this mind of the human creation has to conscious realize and see and be. Today I say this for the new age that has to come, and no more for the past earth conditions that have to pass. And he was saying this in 1940. I say this to make it clear that I have not come to establish any form of new religion or creed or school of thought, but that I have come to put straight the human conscience. I have not come to bring another ideal of truth, but to give a real impulse in the realm of I, which is yet unawakened. This scient being, scient means a knowing, this scient being that is in you, Norina, in you and a few of my disciples consciously cooperating with me, is to be held as a deep, unfathomable fact that has come into existence because, as human being, you have evolved to a state of scient existence within. This mystical state has no more, no less a value for the external manifestation of you as human being that is more conscious of the divine I than it is a more or less important realized show. But in this age has to be agent in the human being, to lift, to upset, to stir, to put right, and to realize the order, which is impulse of realization, reaction. New aspiration, divine imperative longing. These factors of life in the spirit have to be stirred in more than one way in this human creation, while I am here in the form of a human being. Now, when I say this, it has merely to show how it is important that you, as a disciple of mine, try to consciously realize the intuition expansion. and at the same time do the real intellectual effort to cooperate. These two ways of cooperation are the exact ways which I want the human mind to cooperate when I shall set in motion the divine power of the Word. This time is not far. It is not far that I shall make it clear through the inner circle that the mind within and the mind without, both are mind in the universal sense, and both are in the division of intellect and universal mind, that which I mean by head and heart. These two forms of living within the realm of the human limited mind, as the intellect and of the divine, limitless and indivisible, yet unrealized realm of the human being as spirit, as self, as one as I, or as the divine existence, have to come to profound joining cooperation. When I say that it is time that man and the divine being come to one only state of life, that is unself-conscious in the intuition, unself-conscious in the intellect, unself-conscious within in the realm of being, I make it be when the time is due, the union of the I and the other I, or the human I and the divine existence. All this is too premature for the world to see. That is why I am not manifesting more than that which is divine. That is why what I hear say may be used to explain at large the real way I am doing the upheaval in the mind of this human creation at the stage at which it is now. These few words that I have stated here, I wish to have really and truly used and made clear in all who search for me as a guide. The play of opposites which the human being is never able to understand unless he has overcome his limited I, can in no way be realized. This means what I have been telling you in my own mystical language, in many of my talks and previous messages. This mind that we come to realize is merely a mode to understand that which we have to realize. No one is able to realize this mind that is use of the divine pure elephant. No one is able to fill the heart with the divine being essence. No one is able to form within the I, the other I, that is real, that is good, that is unselfish, without my coming into existence and bringing to this I that is limited and unconscious the experience of its divine existence. Such facts as to be identified with my divine I are rare. What I meant in saying that I have not come to bring any new form of religion or external form of thought about God and the theme of self and realization is that it is so, as in this one as the I, as the portion indivisible, as the individual I, is God, the divine existence. It has to be a joined order of realized existence in self and in I as the human creature. He ends by saying, "Give me 1 second of your existence, and I will return it to you free of these quests and bindings. Give me 1 second of your whole individual existence, and I come to you and free you from that which is unself-conscious, unreal, uncreative, in that other side of you, which is real, which is divine. Give me 1 second of your whole existence, and I will give you more of that which I have to give, and which I am giving unendingly in every ordinary and extraordinary way of me as human, selfless servant of mankind, as love. Give me you as human creation, whether good or bad, whether real or false, and I will make you one with that which is me. I am here not to make men believe that God is the unrealized state impersonal and existent, which has to be realized impersonal in being, but to make man know that God is right in them, right there where they are good and bad, where they have no way out of being that what they have to be. When I say this, it is that I have to make it clear in a very simple language to all who will read this. Come to me all whenever necessary, and I will lead you out of the puzzle of doubts and of misinterpretations of what is real. I have nothing to say but to bless all those who have come to see me and those who have come to donate me their lives. To give up the life is one way to come to me. To give up the being is the other way to come to me and to be identified with me. So let all grow still, quiet, and do not worry. I shall not miss to real and true give the help when it is called for. When men come to me asking me to give enlightenment on this quest through which they have to grow, and that is to realize their own self and to be their own self as the portion divine of me. I have seen that those have been shown through their own martyrdom in self-realization to come to a new turning point. This turning point is to see me and no more. Let this be the turning day out of which they will arise free and sure and strong and unselfish in every way. With this, I close the day's work and give all my benediction.